A group that obviously has a lot of dislike for Christianity are gay people. How do you handle that as a Christian?
That's a good question.
Why, if you grow up in a different country, that's like looked down upon because they're not the same religion as me and they don't believe in the same God as me?
Is there a God? In my opinion, yes. Now, is it the God of the Bible? Homosexuality isn't one of God's top 10. I can give you 1,000 ways to go to heaven, but people will be ticked if I give them only 1,000.
72 virgin wives when they go to heaven. Well, why is that silly? But ours is the one.
Vin Diesel with you guys today. Talking about God and family.
How do you have such a nice smile? You've been working on this for years, or what are you doing?
My smile?
Yeah.
I mean, I did Invisalign a little while ago.
Oh, did you?
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I still have one weird tooth down the bottom. See it?
Like a little snaggle tooth thing?
Yep. And then I have an overbite. But it doesn't matter. I got big teeth, so I smile. You see my teeth.
The Invisalign, you have to still use it and keep it. You have to wear it forever, right?
Let me actually back up because I don't want to give Invisalign credit. I did Smile Direct. And so they're teeth aligners. They're not the same. So Invisalign, I guess, kind of corrects the height as well as your in your bite. So you can straighten your teeth with
Did you have spaces
aligners.
before?
Nope. Just kind of some overlap.
Yeah.
Some overlap.
Shows you what a difference it made. We don't care.
Yeah.
I never noticed.
Yes. Okay. You were just messing with me. Now I gave you the whole
No,
rundown.
you always had a nice smile.
Oh, okay.
I've always thought you were handsome.
Okay. Thank you.
I mean, I don't
Thank
know.
you. Yeah. Maybe that's why I hung out. Because I was handsome.
You never know.
Yeah. I always thought you were jacked.
What's been going on? What's been going on?
Oh
with
man,
you?
I got a lot of stuff going on. I got a day planner for the first time. Yeah.
Like a little book that you write stuff down
Yeah,
in?
yeah. I didn't bring it today.
Yeah, what's on the agenda for today?
It keeps me organized. But that's what I said. You texted me and you said, hey, can you jump on the podcast? And I was like, yeah, let me check my day planner. Wasn't with me again.
I was like, why the fuck's he being so serious and responsible?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, what is this about? He's like acting like an adult.
Did you guys ever get day planners in school? I remember every single year they'd give you a little day planner.
I had one many years ago, and I, for some reason, never used it.
My wife, it's like a standing joke at my house. And I have probably 12 planners and I've never filled out a single one. Mm-hmm. And then now I was telling Andrew just before we started the podcast, I got a lot going on. And I mean, I can't keep it straight. Like I'm end up not going places. Yeah. And I don't have enough resources yet to pay somebody to go and be there for me. So it's like, I got to make sure I'm where I need to be.
Yeah.
And so I write everything down.
You need a company calendar.
Yeah. Company. Yeah. I have Iron Mile, Overcome Project. I do stuff at the church, which I'm sure we'll talk about. And just my kids, there's a lot going on for me right now. So.
How many kids do you have, by the way? You have
4.
Yeah. Okay.
4 kids. Yeah.
How many dogs?
2.
Okay. 4 kids, 2 dogs.
Yeah. I have like 2 outdoor cats. They don't count because they just kill mice.
Yeah.
I have 4 goats.
Yeah. See?
And 1 cow. Yeah.
Oh, you got a cow?
Yep. I drank bone broth from my previous cow this morning. I made.
Damn.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What do you mean you drank bone broth from you killed
cows?
We killed a cow. Yeah. We killed and butchered a cow, my previous cow.
Yeah.
I guess it's still mine.
Right.
Just in the freezer.
Wow, dude.
What's a cow entail? It doesn't entail a lot, right? It just eats itself. Like you don't have to feed it and stuff, right?
It eats for itself. It doesn't eat itself.
Yeah.
Cannibalizes itself.
It likes beef. It's a meat eater. It likes a good steak just like we do. Yeah. No, we have a little bit of land, and so it manages the grass. So it works. I don't pay a landscaper. I can actually just kill my landscaper when it's done.
You're right.
You know what I mean? And then eat it. It's perfect. Wow. Yeah. Sounds morbid, right? But it's yeah. But it's actually my cow.
Yeah.
So you saw a show that we had a little while back, and you send a text, and you were really upset, and you said, "You guys are a bunch of heathens over there. I'm going to come on the show. I'm going to heal everybody."
Yeah, I started praying a long time ago for you guys. Yeah. I mean, I think that, we've had enough conversations in the past to know where we both stand.
Yeah.
And I know Nsima well enough to know where he stands and where I stand. And the crossover and the symmetry, the symmetry, the crossover symmetry. That's a thing, for the shoulders. The crossover and the synergy that we have in certain areas. But I also see that there are differences in the way that I've went, and I could tell with you guys articulating your differences in the way you've kind of taken your backgrounds. And I was like, man, this is a really interesting conversation. And that was my feedback I think that was a good conversation. It was like one of the most valuable ones you guys have had in a long time, to be fair, because the title was one of the few that I listened to in a while. I get one in about every 3 weeks. So as far as podcasts, you guys create really fast. And like I said, my schedule is.
And it's okay to say, and it's fair. We talk about a lot of bullshit. We have a lot of nonsense on here. We admit it. We're okay with that.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of times
This was something of actual value.
Yeah, there was a lot of value in my estimation, right? I was like, yeah, this is good. But then I saw there was something right after it. You guys posted about doing landmines instead of cleans, and I was like, man, that's good. I was like, that's good too. And I get something from sentences. Sometimes sentences change my life. You know what I mean? I don't have to listen to the whole show. You know, and I listened to that title. Well done, Andrew. And
That was a team effort, but yeah.
And I was like, oh, dude, I've been saying that for years. I got people in my gym, and they don't lift, like they don't train their body parts enough. You know,
Keep some athleticism.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and so. But then sometimes people just do cleans over and over and over again with the same muscles. And I'm like, hey, you know, you could probably just do some landmine rows, do some strict pull-ups, maybe some chin-ups, even mix in some ring rows for crying out loud and get stronger.
Where are a lot of the people at that you came into CrossFit with? Like, where are they at? Do you think of some of the people you came in with? Where do you think they're at, like health-wise? Are they in a better spot? Are they in a worse spot?
You mean like guys who, when I started, they were starting as well?
Yeah.
Well, I can kind of think of like the competitors that I dealt with, you know, and I competed against, and those guys are doing pretty good, you know, the smart ones. And then some of them, we all have some mileage on us, you know, and I always thought from the methodology and what I was taught when I first started was that CrossFit was going to be something that was a little different. It was going to be sustainable. It was going to be something that constantly build you up and didn't break you. But the reality is we turned it into a sport. And for those of us, when we turned it into a sport, we kind of, I don't want to say we threw the methodology out, because we didn't. There's a lot of things that apply from the methodology and how you would train people. But we started to break our bodies down. You know what I mean? I had shoulder surgery. You know, I had 6 anchors put in my right shoulder trying to do kettlebell snatches fast. Like, is a kettlebell snatch a bad movement? No, it's a great movement. In fact, I wish I could still do them. I actually just get a little nervous, you know, because as the weight changes position from the front of your body and then flings over onto the back of your wrist, there's that little tug. And I'm like, are those anchors really secure? Are they really ready?
Do I really want to test them? Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, I just like having both hands on the barbell when I snatch now, because I don't have any mobility issues. And then I get the support of the opposite hand. So there's that. I mean, there's guys like, you know, I mean, Froning's, you know, came in, and I'm not on the level, but I'm just saying guys who came in like that, he's had issues with his health and, you know, with his body, but he's sustained way better than a lot of people, and he has probably the health and fitness that most people would aspire to ever have.
4-time champion. I mean, he went as far as you can go, as hard as you can go.
Yeah.
He's still doing team competitions.
Right? Yeah, and he's still,
Yeah. And then like Jason, you know, Jason Kleep, he's been on this show a bunch of times. We're all friends with him. You know, Jason's doing pretty good. You know, he shut it down early.
Doing jiu-jitsu now.
Yep. He changed his focus and you know, but I think that we're all doing pretty good, but we have some mileage on us. That's all I'd say. And then people, they always tell me that, like, aren't you kind of sad that you did all that? And I'm like, no. And they're like, why not? I'm like, well, you have neck pain. I have neck pain. That's another one to have. So bone spurs, those are fun.
But you also fought and stuff too, right?
Yeah.
You've done a lot of things with your body.
Yeah. Oh, you fought?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
I try not to tell Nsima that, because he's like, hey, you want to go roll for a few minutes? Like, not really.
You're like, oh, my time's up here today. Look at my day planner.
Yeah. I'll keep praying for you guys, and then I'm out here. You know? Yeah. So I did mixed martial arts that's how I got into CrossFit, actually. So I was doing bodybuilding, and I thought that was really cool. And that was the way that you express your fitness post high school or collegiate sports. It's like, just get in the gym, get jacked. That's what we did. Yeah. I didn't have a powerlifting gym. I didn't have any kind of background like that. And so just start getting bigger. Wow. But then I thought, what's this stuff we're seeing on TV? It was the UFC. And this is cool. Yeah. And so I just found a gym, started going. Uriah Faber taught me a bunch of stuff. And I love grappling. I love throwing punches. I love taking punches. But that's also not sustainable.
This makes a lot of sense. You look like you fight.
Okay.
Like, you have that look, you know what I mean? I can't explain it. There's something in the... You guys get what I'm saying? Or am I tripping?
No,
This is an audio show, right? They can't see it.
It's on YouTube.
Oh,
too.
okay. All right. Just making sure.
They can see you.
Yeah. You have cauliflower here?
4K?
Yeah. It's in 4K. Okay.
No cauliflower ear. I actually wanted it. Isn't that bad?
Like rubbing your head on
Isn't
people.
that bad? You know, because people would say that sometimes. They're like, "Oh, you look like you fight," and then look at my, you know, that's what you did for a long time. Like, I feel like everybody has cauliflower ear. You know what I mean? They all did what I did. You know, and they just went and got cauliflower ear and said, "All right, cool." It's like getting a black belt. Like, what's scary? Somebody tells you you have a black belt, or somebody has cauliflower ear.
Cauliflower ear.
Right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's what I wanted, but I don't have my black belt either. So I always did no-gi. So
Yeah.
I actually went to the gym in Hawaii in January. First time I grappled in about 4 years. And it was a small group. You know, there was a guy who is the hand-to-hand combat instructor for a local law enforcement agency. He was there. He trains all the time. A Navy SEAL who trains quite a bit, super fit guy. Doesn't, just because you're Navy SEAL doesn't make you great at grappling. It just means you're ready to fight, I guess. And then another guy who spent about 2 years doing it. And we went in there and rolled for about an hour and a half.
Nice.
I didn't get tapped once. I put a couple people in a few bad positions. Couldn't finish anybody. Just like, oh, what happens here? And you know, but felt pretty good. I was like,
Couldn't remember enough shit. To
yeah,
like, get
that's
anybody
exactly
in
it, right?
anything,
It's like, but
But it's cool you could still hold your own. It's been 4 years, man. Like you still remember that. Your body knows what to do.
yeah, Nsima sizing me up right now. Really uncomfortable. We're not even in the same weight class. Actually, we might be. I don't know why I'm so dense.
You're like what, 220? 225?
230 right now.
Yo, you are
awesome.
dense. Jesus Christ.
I told you. Yeah. Do you guys notice
He's
like
all legs and ass.
having somebody like Nsima tell you that you're dense? His eyes got really big too.
He gets excited by people with thick wrists too. So maybe
Mine are small. No, I don't know what they are. They're whatever. So,
dude.
yeah. There
what did you
go.
learn from CrossFit that you're able to, like, are you still able to do? I'd imagine like you didn't completely abandon all the CrossFit stuff. You probably still utilize some of the methods, right?
Yeah. When you CrossFit?
Yeah, just
Oh.
with like training yourself. I mean, you know.
You know, for the last half of 2022, I spent most of my time weightlifting, powerlifting, bodybuilding, and just trying to get stronger because my neck issue was really severe. Actually, December of 2021, I did a competition with my son, who was 14 at the time, and it was an RX competition, which was really cool for him to be able to step up and me to be able to be in shape enough for us to do something together. It was just a local competition. The next week, I was doing some wall balls, and just that position for my neck, all of a sudden it flared up, and I couldn't sleep well for about 6 weeks. When I say 6 weeks, I literally mean 6 weeks of very little sleep. I tried alcohol. I tried
Ambien or some shit.
not CBD, but THC type stuff you get from like a dispensary, like real stuff that people got for me. I tried painkillers. I tried stuff for somebody who I know had a tumor removed in their brain, and they gave me some remedy. I couldn't sleep. It was really bad. And
It's
so
mainly the pain.
it was the pain. And then the only thing that helped was actually sleeping on the pain would radiate down to my right shoulder. And I would sleep on that shoulder because the pain on that shoulder was predictable. And so that was really unpleasant. So once I finally got the pain to subside, I switched and I started doing a lot of powerlifting, a lot of strength training, because I could control those positions, you know, a lot more than in CrossFit where you're trying to be dynamic, you're doing burpees, you're doing all these kinds of things.
Yeah.
And that was a process. I was able to get my lifts up to new lifetime bests, and that was good. But now that the pain's kind of gone, I
You
kind of,
squatted over 500 pounds, right?
I squatted 565.
Jesus.
Yeah, in the gym, you know, was fun. Got on
Yeah.
video. I deadlifted 615, which for me is really good. And I don't want to talk about my bench. I'll talk about it. My goal was to get a 400-pound bench, a 500-pound back squat, 600-pound deadlift, and then be able to snatch 300 pounds and then clean 400 pounds. So that's a nice, you know, big picture for a barbell athlete. And I missed the bench press. I hit 395, or I went for 395, missed it. Oh, hey, this guy. I went for 395 and missed it. There you go. There's the 565. And tell me if this is legit. Nice and low.
Oh my Lord, yes.
I got
that
low,
is-
but barely stand up. I dropped the bar off my back.
God, you lift the
I
same.
stopped and
Ooh.
I did that. And it was for a road competition. And they told me that it was a no rep because I dropped it off my back.
Oh my gosh.
And then I pulled the 650.
You never did quite learn the form for any of these movements.
You know, I'm working on it. I'm working on it. And that's 365. And the reason why that lift is so easy,
Crush
and
it.
then that's my son spotting me right there. I went to 395 and I missed it at the, you've seen me miss lifts when I'm really high. I missed it at the lockout, which is really weird. and then I had to go back down. I ended up hitting 375. So my best is 375.
What's going on with your son? He's lifting like a madman.
He's a freak, dog. He's a freak. Yeah. So he's 15, and
God, that looks good too. That form.
Yeah, that's 185 right there. He's 15, and I'm having him do quite a bit of training right now, but that's just because he did
how bouncy his body is. He's like, yep, this is great.
He did the CrossFit Open this year, and for 14, 15-year-olds, and he ended up finishing 9th in the world.
No way.
Whoa. Yeah. And so,
awesome.
And he wasn't even really training. Like I said, we've been traveling in September. We were in Hawaii, just kind of one workout a day, if that. And then we went to Hawaii again for a couple weeks, and he just ended up doing this and doing really well. So we've been training really hard this month.
Man. What is it you notice? Because like, it's interesting that there's a new generation of kids that grew up on CrossFit. And like, I don't know if we were talking about how like a lot of these young female champions are like 18, 19, 20. What do you notice from like kids versus the first generation of adults that won the CrossFit games, I guess?
Well, it's weird because for me, my son started with like way more cardio than I was ever able to build. You know what I mean? I was trying to build cardio for so long, but he's like already, kids, you ask them to go get you something, they run somewhere to get it.
Yeah.
And that whole phenomenon. And for whatever reason, because his body isn't filled out with muscle, even though he's got decent muscle on him, it's not filled out. It just doesn't take up as much oxygen. So he can just keep moving, And then that you don't know any better. You've never been injured. So you just kind of have this reckless abandon when you go after things. There's something to that, Yeah.
It can be really cool too as he fills out and gets a little older. Like his form and technique is going to be even more flawless. It will just be with like hundreds of more pounds.
Yeah, and the other thing is that's how he learned how to move. If you have a kid who grew up dancing, then they'd be able to dance for a long time, especially if they danced through those awkward stages of their teenage years where they are growing and their legs were getting longer and they're, whatever. So Mason's just moved his whole life. And so since he was 4 years old, he's been doing this stuff.
When you were having a hard time sleeping and you were in all that pain, how was that on your mental health? Was that hard on your mental health? Because it sucks. Like when you're an athlete and you're someone that, is used to having a certain amount of strength and a certain amount of physicality, and to have that taken away, it really blows.
Yeah, it really does. And that's tough. I think that when you have an injury as an athlete, and this might be something that I made up or something that we've all said, but when you get really injured, when you get really messed up and you come back, that's what makes somebody really an athlete in my mind. I know that there are people out there who are athletic and who have done things and they've never been injured, like my son. Like, he's an athlete, yes, but I think there's maybe a degree at which you get to go up when you have been injured and you come back. And so for me, I fought everything. I mean, like mentally, it was really, really tough. Like, am I ever going to get it back? I remember trying to do 10 push-ups and failing. And that was really brutal. I remember taking a cable press down.
Just a couple months ago?
This was January of last year.
Okay.
So then I went through that whole process, and then July through December of last year as my powerlifting cycle. Now I'm back into CrossFit. But during that time, I remember doing a tricep press down with like 40 pounds on like my left arm. And that's just something we could just sit there and we just work for a burn, like you're doing like a mini band, And I went over to my right arm and I was straining to get 3 or 4. And it was like, getting on top of it and kind of not really even using the right form. And I'd bring people in. I'm like, dude, check this out. I was trying to break down what was really wrong. And I didn't know. This is before I had an MRI, before I had anything looked at, and I'm like, oh, there's something happening here. Like, it's not just pain, like it's shutting down something on my right side. And so I just started using that as my new metric. And so I'd just start working at it. And like, oh, cool, I got 7 today. And then the next week I'd get 8. The next week I'd get 9. But yeah, the right arm's still actually a little bit Nemo-ish. Yeah.
Do you know what actually happened with the neck, or what specifically is the problem? What caused it? Or it's just...
I mean, my nickname, like 15 years ago was BHB, and so I have a big head, right? And so I've been carrying this.
Same shit.
Yeah, I've been carrying this thing around for a long time. That's one, and I don't think that can be discounted, honestly. I've been taking punches in mixed martial arts for a long time, and that does a lot to your neck.
Yeah,
grappling, and when you're willing to die to try to win, you get in bad spots, and all you do is just try harder to get out of them. Like, you're like, I'm not going to die. I'm going to win. I'm going to find a way out of this, and that's kind of mentality I took into MMA, grappling, whatever. And I don't know if that was necessarily the right thing to do. Like I could have been like, all right, I'm in a bad position. Let me just tap and then learn how to get out of this next time. You know what I mean? Like just don't get back there again. And I think I would have learned a lot more from that, because these are not positions. Like if you get out of it once, that's great, but a better, superior fighter or in a different situation, you wouldn't have gotten out of it. So why force yourself out of it? Why muscle yourself out of it? It's like breaking your thumb to get out of a pair of handcuffs. It's like, how about just don't get in handcuffs, And so I think there's a lot to that. And then on top of that, I came into CrossFit with really strong shoulders. And I think that was from throwing a lot of punches and just having that muscle endurance from hitting the bag for hours and hours and hours. And so handstand push-ups became something I was really good at. And then when people tell you you're good at something, what do? A lot of that thing. And so I think that kind of impact the giant head for 40 years now, 40 years.
Damn, good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just, the body can only take so much. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Gotcha.
When you listen to the show where we were talking about religion, what caught your attention kind of the most? What were some things that stood out? Because I think you and I went back and forth just on some voice notes, and we're like, I think it'd be cool to talk about it on the podcast. I think the cool thing about podcasting is you get to have a lot of long format. So if somebody says something like, I don't believe in God, and there's just a period after it, sometimes people get stirred up, triggered, they get offended. But if you have an opportunity to explain yourself further, then sometimes people are like, all right, well, people have different vantage points, different viewpoints. What were you kind of stimulated or moved by when you were listening to some of that stuff?
Well, when I was listening to it, I probably, like a lot of people who are listening to your show, have some sort of Christian background. We live in America, right? Yeah. And so it's more normal. And I think that probably people were listening to it and going like, yeah, I agree. Because my faith has kind of done the same thing. It started one way, and then it's now grown, I'll use air quotes for my own purposes, into another expression, another way of kind of going about it. And there are probably some sitting there like me, more like me, who were like, oh man, I wish I could just be there and ask a couple of questions just to see what they mean by that and why and what triggered that. And so for me, when I was listening to you guys talk about your upbringings, and like for you, Mark, you had like this kind of disconnect with church at one point, but there was never really a disconnect with your parents, which was really cool. That was neat. You know what I mean? It seemed like, at least with the way you were talking about and what I know about you, there was never really a disconnect with mom and dad. Right. You know what I mean? Like you guys were tight, and you were like, this is cool. My parents gave me this idea, this belief in myself that I could kind of do things, and they were good with it, and they supported you along the way, which is great. And the faith that they found really valuable for them, these people you care about a lot, at what point, as you moved away from it, was it just like, I wanted to know, was it something that you saw it was impractical to do anymore? Because, and then same thing for Nsima, right? When I was listening to you guys talk about it, grew up in the church, hopefully mom doesn't listen to this podcast. And, because now I kind of see things differently. But when we came full circle, all the way back around to the end, and there's a couple other little things in there I'll throw in. It was like, I think the world would be better if more people went to church. Like I actually think it'd be better. And yeah. And so, my wife and I were talking about it, because these are the things that we talk about. We're really excited about this stuff, and if there's one thing that I enjoy talking about more than fitness, it is people's faith. It's the matters that surround God. But like America's getting really, really unfit right now, right? Everybody's fat, blood pressure.
Don't use that word.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
That's okay.
Rotund. Okay. All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Good. But it's happening, and people are going like, you know what? I saw an article, and this might be a long way of kind of going about it. And the article said the cause of obesity is like not yet known. Like it was like a scientific article. Like we don't know the cause of obesity.
It's like the elephant in the room.
Well, the elephant is saying we don't know.
Yeah. I'm like, this is really, really weird to me, right? And so people are going like, yeah, we don't really know. And then you hear this body positivity, which I think in some ways can be okay. right? There's a level of that which you want to be able to be okay in your own skin, regardless of what you look like, what you smell like. No, not what you smell like. But there's this whole move. And then you have these people saying, like, and going to the gym is really hard. So maybe we should just not go to the gym anymore. Like, we don't know the cause, and we see all this stuff happening, and everybody's fat anyway, and blood pressure and heart disease and all this stuff is on the rise. So maybe we should just like stop doing what we know works. And it's like, it kind of almost sounded like you guys did that a little bit with your faith, not to try to put words in your mouth. That's why I want to come on and have the discussion, right? And that's where I get the bullets come back at me, right? It was like, hey, you know what? I don't know if I really believe this anymore. It's not really work. And it's like, let's just kind of get rid of that. But then you're like, oh, but actually maybe the world would be better or could be better if, people started going back to church.
Church and religion, I think, are almost like separate matters in some ways. Obviously, people go to a church to praise a particular God or to reinforce the religion. Where I come up short on religion is when we select like a religion, there's a God kind of selected for that religion, and there's a bunch of principles and beliefs that are within that. Keep in mind, I don't know anything about religion. I don't know a lot, just my own experiences, and I don't know a lot about other religions. But I'm confused on why, if you grow up in a different country and you're only exposed to that religion, why, like, I guess the things maybe I was told when I was young, maybe they're not even true. I don't know what's true. But that's like looked down upon because they're not the same religion as me and they don't believe in the same God as me. And that always kind of confused me. I never liked that. That was like kind of, I guess, probably a pivotal thing in my departure from religion. Because I'm like, that doesn't seem fair. Like, there's a kid that's my age somewhere that just was brought up differently. And how does he not to get to go to heaven or these various things? And I think even within religion, there's a lot of stuff, church and like things like getting to go to heaven, living, in eternity and these things. They're all really interesting things. But I think, in my opinion, most stuff is just things to try to figure out how to get yourself through every single day with like relative kind of peace and harmony. And so for me, I didn't really feel like I needed to be religious or to practice religion to be able to go through my life that way. And maybe I will come to something different as I get older. Maybe I'll have different conclusions and maybe I'll keep changing my mind, because I changed my mind on how I lift. I changed my mind on how I exercise. I changed my mind on a lot of things, and I try to be more open as I continue to move in a direction that I think is forward. So that's kind of where I guess I stand on some of that. My family also just discontinued going to church, which again, going to church and practicing your religion don't have to go hand in hand. But they sort of did for me, because my discipline was I went to church with my parents, and then at some age, 16 or 17, I think we stopped going to church. My dad still reads the Bible. I think he's read it like hundreds of times. He just starts over and reads it and reads it and reads it and reads it. He's been doing that forever. My mother used to do the same thing. I never got really into that discipline or that practice. And so, yeah, that's just some of my thoughts there.
It's really good. It's really good and really helpful to see, did you want to add anything, Nsima, to that?
Not yet.
Okay. So, and my goal was to ask questions, and kind of help get clarifying ideas about where you guys were at and how you got there. So, I don't want to turn into an apologist for the Christian faith where I come in and go like, hey, you guys, if you don't believe this, you have real issues, right? There are certain things that I might believe that, but that's not what I wanted to do, turn it into like that. But in terms of shedding light into the kid who was your age, when you're thinking these things, you're 12, when you're 13 years old, and you're like, there's a kid in Pakistan who literally has never seen a Bible, heard the name of Jesus,
right?
And you're telling me that kid is going to go to hell because where he was born, and it's like, that can be really, really hard to wrap your mind around if that's the way it's being presented to you. And I think there is a lot of that in the church today. I do, not even just when you were 12 or 13, like 40 years ago. So,
Oh,
he did, almost 40 years ago. I think there's a lot of kind of ethnocentric, American-centric kind of bias into the church, forgetting that it was actually written first in Greek and Hebrew, right? And these people were somewhere else, and it's like we somehow feel like we're the best versions of the church in America, and it's kind of sad, and it's not really, I don't think it's what the Bible teaches, God says in his word that, and I'm using God and his word as kind of really definitive, but I know there are people who disagree, that the God of the Bible says in his word, the Bible, that based on the measure that you've been given, that's the measure which you'll be accountable for, right? So a kid in Pakistan who's walking through the streets and is like, I've never seen a Bible, like he doesn't even think that, but he just looks up and he goes, I don't think this is a mistake. I think this stuff is like been put here. Like maybe that's all that he's accountable to really understand and grasp. And in that's like God saying, like, look at this kid, never even read the Bible. And he knows that somebody other than himself created this whole thing. That's the faith I'm looking for. And he brings him in, right? And I think the Bible would support that level of faith and understanding and expressing it that way. I don't think it's that kid has never heard Jesus, so he's going to hell. And if it is that way, I would not be ready to throw the Bible out at that point. I'd be like, dang, I better go to Pakistan. So that's how much I believe God's word, right? One, it might be troubling. Yeah, one might be troubling for me, but I would, rather than saying, hey, I don't want to spread the word of God, I don't want to spread his love and his message, I would actually say, hey, I better get on it. I'd probably better spend my time, energy, and resources going to Pakistan, and I have no idea about Pakistan, but I just make it up. You know what I mean? So that's kind of where I land on that issue personally, because that's the way I see it.
Power Project family, your normal shoes are making you weak. This is why I partner with Vivo Barefoot Shoes, because they have a wide toe box, they're flat, and they're flexible. So with every single step you're taking, if you're taking a 10-minute walk outside, or when you're working out in the gym, your feet are able to do what they're supposed to do in this shoe. They have tons of options for hiking, running, training in the gym, chilling and relaxing, casual shoes for if you're out on a date. You need to check them out. And Andrew, how can they get it?
Yes, that's over at vivobarefoot.com/powerproject, and you guys will receive 15% off your order automatically. Again, vivobarefoot.com/powerproject. Links to them down in the description, as well as the podcast show notes.
Yeah. I've also never had anything in my life where I'm like, this horrible thing happened. Mm-hmm. Why'd it happen to me? So I'm not going to believe in God anymore. I never had anything like that. It's just the more stuff I've heard over the years, and even some of the new ideas of that a lot of religion in some people's belief come from like psychedelic experiences and things like that. Like a lot of this stuff is really, really interesting. And then how old the Bible is, who the Bible was written by, how old the earth is in accordance to the Bible versus how old we believe the earth actually is. A lot of that stuff just leaves you. But again, I get it. And I think it's all part of a thing of like, well, how what's your faith? Like how powerful are your beliefs? Do you only believe in things that you see? We know a lot about Mars. We never landed there. Mm-hmm. We seem to know it seems like we have some pretty good information about it. But are you also willing to believe that maybe it's a little different when we actually get there?
Right.
And I think that that's kind of my just kind of vantage point and view on life is I don't know what things are going to look like when I get to certain places. I don't know what it's going to be. And I also don't want to fakely believe. I don't want to be like, I'm going to believe because I don't want to go to hell. Like I don't like that. I don't think that makes any sense. So yeah, for now I'm just more like where I'm at.
Yeah. And I think that it's really cool because what you just said is, we know some things based on what we've seen. Like we literally just know, like the earth is not 6,000 years old, right? Is what science would tell us. It's let's say, I don't know what it is now. It's like 2 billion.
Yeah,
something.
some billions, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you remember, like when I was in high school and probably when you guys were each in high school, the earth was actually not as old as it is now.
Right.
Right. It keeps getting older,
Mm-hmm.
right? According to science, because they keep going like, this would take a really long time to evolve. Like we thought evolution worked a certain way and now we're seeing it works differently. It would take even longer. So it's like, I think when I was in school, it was like in the millions. It's like 400 million years old. And you're like, it's a 400 million year old earth. And now it's in the billions, which is exponentially way different, right? And so we just keep adding time to account for what we can't explain, right? And then we use time, or sometimes we'll use time as why we don't believe something that's outlined in the Bible. I point at my phone because now we can read anything on our phones, right?
My mom loves that.
So the earth very well could be, even according to the Bible, in my mind, the way I would read it, 5 billion years old, right? You're like, well, how would that work? Because we have creation. That's the problem a lot of people have when they go to Sunday school. Like, wait, the earth was created in 7 days? Like, I literally just heard we came from monkeys and it's like really, really, really old. This makes no sense. Like my Mr. Whatever in my class at school and my Mrs. Whoever in my Sunday school are just not jiving right now. And one of these makes sense and one of them doesn't. Well, in the beginning, that's how the Bible actually starts, right? In the beginning, the earth was formless and void. Now, in that time, how long was it formless and void? Those rocks or those weird things or those elements could have been sitting there for what we would call billions of years. But then when God started creation, I would say he meant a literal 6-day creation. He started doing that stuff very quickly, right? But then when you test those things and see how old they are, carbon dating might say that's 2 billion years old. And we're like, oh, see, the Bible's not true. And I don't necessarily think that is a full picture of things. You know what I mean? And so I also struggle with the problem of good and evil personally, right? I think that there's a lot of people who would point to this, and not to put words in anybody's mouth. Wasn't something you guys spent a lot of time on in the podcast, but when I talk to people about their faith, they just like, hey man, there's like a lot of bad stuff that happens in the world, and I don't know if you guys would agree with that. I don't know how much of an atheist or a nihilist or whatever you guys are, because at some point you start making moral judgments. You kind of move out of those camps, or you're at least kind of conflicted, because an atheist who believes there's no God, there's no moral standards, right? It's just what we create. If more people think this is okay, then it should be okay, right? It's based on voting or a popularity system, right? But for me, there's a real problem with evil in the world. But when I look at it, I go, what in me tells me that this is evil? Why is it evil that some people sacrifice babies in certain cultures over the history of time? Like, why is that? Like, if I'm standing by, like, I can't watch that. Oh, well, you weren't raised in it. I'm like, I don't think that's really it. I don't think that's really why I think that's evil. You know what I mean? I think that we could all agree on that. And then, so with that, what's in me that makes me believe that there's actually evil? Where did that come from? And is that just some sort of self-preservation? Is that what that is, kind of coming in me through evolution? Or is there some sort of moral code in my DNA? And I think there is. I think that's what that is. And if there's moral code in my DNA, then where did it come from? And that answers the bigger question of, is there a God? In my opinion, yes. Now, is it the God of the Bible? Doesn't necessarily say that, right?
But that intuition to be compassionate and to be wired with like morals could also come from evolution, perhaps. Right? I mean, it doesn't have to necessarily come from like a God.
Right. Yeah, and that's what I was saying. Is like it could be some sort of like I said, self-preservation, but would be very interesting because there's certain lifestyles. Because evolution is all about creating and sustaining life at a higher level or at a more optimized level. I think maybe it'd be a better term for evolution. Well, there are certain lifestyles that are more acceptable these days that don't create better evolution.
Before we go on that, don't forget the thing you mentioned about the lifestyles. When we're thinking about the moral code, and I mean, I was brought up Christian, and I don't look at the Bible and be like, I don't think that's wrong. And I can't fathom like my moral code. I know a lot of that has come from the Bible. So I can't necessarily perfectly gauge, do I act this way and do things this way because I was brought up this way or because it's intrinsic. I can't honestly say it because I wasn't brought up any other way. That's why I appreciate the Bible so much, because when I do look at the way of my, like the way I go about things in my morals, I think they're pretty good. I also know that they're based off of that book, a lot of them, and that's done me well in life. But when we're talking about intrinsic morals, when you see certain kids that maybe they don't grow up with two parents in the home and one parent isn't there, and there's a lot of lack of stability, they have certain ways that they may do things as they get older and as they get adults that wouldn't necessarily meet our morals. They may go about doing certain things that they believe is right, but that's a big reason because of the way that they were brought up or a lack of what they had. So when I think about that, I'm like, intrinsically, do they believe that stealing that is wrong or stealing that is survival? Because the Bible tells you do not steal. But if you got to fucking eat, you know, or if you don't have money, and I mean, yeah, you could get a job and work, but if you could just steal that and get that now, you're not going to think that's wrong. And morally, you're absolutely not going to think that's wrong because you got to survive. So that's where it's like, I think the Bible is very beneficial in that way, especially since I was brought up and I understand the morality within it. But those moral things, I don't know if they're as intrinsic as we think they are, unless you have a stable environment.
Yeah, that's a good point. You know, maybe one step even further. So one of the things I do is I work with at-risk youth on a regular basis. And so it's called the Overcome Project. You guys can actually check it out, the Overcome Project. No act, overcomeproj.org. And, but I was talking to a kid and I said, why are you here? And he said, I stole a car. I said, okay. So you stole a car and you end up in a group home like for 6 months after juvenile hall for like some amount of time? He goes, well, I steal a lot of cars. Oh, okay. Yeah. I said, man, level with me. You know, why do you steal cars? He's like, because my life sucks. My life sucks. He's like, I smoke weed and I steal cars and I pretend they're mine. And until the cops get me, I'm free. So he told me. And I'm like, wow. You know? So you talk about.
You're like, this kid needs a hug, not to be thrown in jail. I mean, obviously he committed a crime, so he's taken care of appropriately, but you get my drift. Yeah,
there's consequences to your actions, but we can't leave him in those, right? Like, and that's kind of what the Overcome Project's about, you know, using the power of fitness and community to bring a message of hope and healing, right? That's what we do on a regular basis. And so
you've been doing this for a couple of years now with your wife, right?
Yeah. And that's really like our heart. We spend 2 nights a week. We get 2 nights a week where we're actually not doing anything for other people at this point in our life. And so it's pretty hectic. So 2 nights a week, we're working directly with 4 different group homes. So we do that, and then we're constantly adding more. And we're building a gym out in Woodland for youth, 15 miles from here. So
awesome.
Yeah. But the other thing is, so I understand what you're saying from that perspective, and I see it. I see exactly what you're saying, and I work with it. The effective answer, though, is there may be a reality to what you're saying, like how much of his good is innate or his evil is innate, how much it would be a construct if he had something like the Bible or a 2-parent home, how much of that would be there, what would get passed on. But what we're left with at the end of the day, regardless of where any of it came from, is what do we do with our lives, right? And I think that's a really important question. And so for me, when I'm talking to this kid, I'm like, okay, where did this come from? I can be like, hey, it's not really your fault. You know, you didn't have 2 parents, you didn't have this. But instead, I have to tell him maybe a harsher reality. And it's like, the way you're living ain't working. You know, it's not working. And you need to find something that's a better moral code. You need to find something that's more useful in the long run, both in your life and then I'll add in eternity, right? But I never go to these kids with eternity in mind first. I always have to meet them right where they're at. And I think that
you're in a lot of danger. You're gonna die. You're gonna get shot at, or some crazy thing's gonna happen, and you're gonna end up in jail or dead.
And that's the reality. And so now, having worked with over like 200 kids at this point in the last year, a lot of them don't come back from it, right? They don't come back from it. That's just their life. They don't adopt a new construct. But you know what they won't do? They're not going to show up. And this is so non-Christians don't always like me. because of the way I speak just very plainly about the Bible.
Yeah.
Christians also don't like me sometimes because of the way I speak very plainly about the Bible and about church. I say, hey, this is my mission, is to go into and get these kids and use fitness and use this. And they're like, well, why don't you just bring them to church? Why don't you just bring them the Bible? Why don't you I'm like, they're not going to listen.
Yeah.
Like, well, the word of God is living and powerful and sharper than any two-edged sword, able to pierce between the divisions of soul, their bone and marrow. Yes, that's true, right? But that's not what Jesus did with the woman at the well. At first, he said, give me some water. And then they started having a conversation about water. Like when you're thirsty in the desert, that makes total sense. So you meet them where they're at, and then you're able to offer them something that's of value. And so when we're looking at where do these constructs come from, and I don't want to sidestep the question, the reality is I don't know where they would come from, but I still think that if they came from the Bible and you end up on one side, even as a rebellious response to the Bible, or you end up without parents and without this, that kid knew he needed something. And that construct, regardless of where it came from, that like idea about how to see the world and how to operate in the world and to steal cars, it was helpful, but he knew it was an escape and it was short term, right? And so giving somebody something that's long term and beneficial is what I try to do. And I don't want to say that the Bible is pragmatism, like it's just supremely practical and that's why I follow it, because it's really not. It's not super practical to give up your Sundays. It's not super practical to get up every morning and read or pray or do these things, or it's not that. But there is a practical level to it, depending on where you're at. So I think that answers some of that question, at least to some extent, you know what I mean? But it's not real clear cut, it's not real clean all the time. And I think that was the other thing about my point, and some of our voice messages back and forth was like, I just think these conversations are really valuable because they're not really easy to get answers. Like somebody's probably waiting for a soundbite and be like, hey, I just want to be able to say like this sentence or these two sentences.
Yep,
this,
I'm going to church.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Thanks, Ben.
Yeah. Why is Mark Bell going to church? Oh, Ben said to. It's like, that's not really where we're at. We have to have real conversations about this stuff, So
I think it's important to have some sort of overarching rules to your life, and again, I grew up with two parents that were right there, that were super supportive, and I do remember a lot of the lessons that I've learned through them. I also had an oldest brother that showed me pretty much every way possible to not live, and that was easy to identify, easy to remember, because a lot of that stuff was painful to see. I remember seeing him getting arrested in front of me, multiple times, even when I was like probably 15 or so, like just, stuff that just, that's like my brother. That's like, that's my big brother. That's my childhood hero. And here he is, going down this path. And so, seeing a lot of those things, it helped me, it helped shape my, I guess like moral compass or some direction, that I had. I would just kind of observe certain things. I observed the way my dad lived, and seeing him go to work and do a 9 to 5 every day, wearing a suit and tie, I was like, whatever that is, I don't want that. Watched my brother get arrested and like all kinds of shit like that. I was like, whatever that is, I don't want that. So I could kind of weave my way and see different sides of the family. Like my mom's side of the family, the house is like, literally the house was like dark when I'd go to my mom's side of the family. And both of her parents were alcoholics when she was growing up. And so she grew up in kind of a rough neighborhood. Not too far down the street was where my dad grew up. And where my dad grew up was like, it was way nicer. The house was nicer. The house was brighter. Everybody was happy. Everybody was into like what the kids were doing. Like, oh, you want to go play wiffle ball? Or you want to go throw around the football? Like we just went outside and did that. At my mom's side of the family, at their place, it was like everyone was kind of grumpy or grouchy. And so I could kind of view, I was like, I want to live like this. Everyone's happy. This is pretty cool. And my grandmother and grandfather, they were both religious. They were both sets of both parents were religious. They were both Catholic. And then also kind of seeing and talking to my dad over the years about his, him going from Catholic to being a Christian, that lit up a bunch of stuff in my brain. I'm like, oh, I don't have to be what he is. I get to choose And I didn't even know. I mean, he wasn't trying to force me into anything. I just thought like, oh, I was going to do what he's doing because I'm 12 or whatever. But as he started explaining it to me more, I was like, oh, I get to like just eventually pick whether I want to go to a certain style of church or be a certain religion, or I could even not adopt a religion. So
Yeah.
I always found that to be really interesting. But I will say is that I think it's undeniable, like the information in the Bible is helpful. The information and the communal setup of most churches is going to be beneficial to most people. Getting around other people, like-minded people. They're people that obviously share similar beliefs. The gym can be that way to a certain extent. And I think this country can use stuff like that. I think it can be really important. Just a lot of times when I see stuff or listen to stuff where God is interjected into the picture, I always kind of think, man, I think that you would meet people where they're at a little easier if you waited to mention God. Not like it should be some sort of trick. Oh, you're inside a church now, not that it should be any sort of trick, but I think there's so many valuable lessons and there's so many ways to guide some of our youth that maybe some kids would be more open to listening for a little bit to hear these cool, wonderful stories that can help change your life through some of these quotes and scriptures and stuff. But then you might have to kind of put the religion stamp on it maybe a little bit more afterwards. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're saying is that it's really important to invest before you try to take, a lot of times. I think a lot of times people come in and they just want to just like get these people to just convert to Christianity or convert to Jehovah's Witness or Mormon, whatever, you know what I mean? And they're just trying to get them to convert, but they haven't really invested anything, right? And so it's like, take a little time, really look at them and see what they need, meet them where they're at. And that's really important. I think when you read the Bible and what you mentioned a second ago was, I don't have to choose what my dad chooses. I can choose my own thing. That is 100% right. You know what I mean? We're all left with that choice. Like Jesus even said that to his disciples. He's like, who do you say that I am? Because some people say you're a teacher. And he's like, yeah, but who do you say that I am? And I think it was Peter said, I believe that you're the Son of God.
He's putting them all on the spot.
Right? Yeah. And that's it's like a very poignant and timely question, right? Because the identity and the way that they saw Jesus was going to change the way they lived one way or the other. You know what I mean? And so we all get this point in life where we get to choose. And so it was in that question that your guys' conversation was like really cool because you guys are making certain choices. Like it's all intentional. There's a lot of people who go through this life and they're really unintentional about anything they do, and there are real consequences to life. There are real consequences to action, inaction, intentionality, unintentionality, whatever that would be, right? Choosing a religion, not choosing a religion. Jesus didn't say to Peter or his disciples, like, what are you going to do? Like uphold these rules. He just went to him and said, who do you say that I am? Right? So that's another thing I get frustrated with is I think that Christianity has really been represented as a book of rules. And it really is like I asked one of these young guys that I'm working through and helping them see the Bible and helping them understand what God's teaching through the Bible. And I said, how do you become a Christian? Like first and foremost, how do you become a Christian? Like that should tell you something, right? He's like, well, you go to church. And I'm like, okay, all right. Let's just back up the truck a little bit because Jesus said, and this is a little bit of a Sunday school lesson for some of you guys who haven't heard this before, but Jesus said you must be born again, which means you must put your faith in him. You must trust him if you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead. I can say these things really fast. I've said them a long time, right? That you'll be saved. So it was all based on a mindset. It was all based on a belief, right? I believe this enough to say it. That's how he became a Christian, right? It wasn't like, are you willing to... there's all kinds of lifestyles that Christians speak against these days, right? Are you willing to not be gay anymore, right? Like, that's not what Jesus said. Jesus didn't say that. Like, oh, you're addicted to alcohol? He's like, are you willing to give up alcohol? No, he didn't say that. He didn't say start there. Like, that's not where you're trying to meet people at. Like, dude, you're obviously, drinking way too much, Mark. Like, do you want to be a Christian or not? Well, you better put down the booze. Like, that's not how it goes. That's not the conversation, right? Jesus starts with something very, very different. And he says, like, who do you say that I am? And then when you wake up the next day, you just left with the same choice over and over again. Like, you don't get saved in the Christian faith by doing and then grow by doing. You get saved by faith and choosing that, and then each and every day, wake up choosing the same thing, and then just saying no to the things that kind of interact with, conflict with that. And that's what you do. It doesn't have to be rules upon rules upon rules, which I think helps me. And I'm not saying that I'm at all on the level with Jesus, this guy, right? I'm not at all. I'm just saying
He's on every show. I
think it helped Jesus walk in and out of circles where most religious people thought you should not be there. And it's helped me because I'm just like, hey, this is real. Like, I'm not asking you guys to be somebody different. I'm just saying, like, who do you say Jesus is? And I think that's a really important question for people to understand and grapple with. So,
when you mentioned, because a lot of people, if they don't know anything about the Bible, or if they've maybe just seen Christianity as memes on Instagram or stuff on TV, they do think it's just a pure book of rules with very Christians who hate certain groups of people and dislike certain lifestyles, etc. But, one thing that I found is super strong, especially obviously being brought up in it, is the amount of stories of different types of things that have happened to people. And then that if you're taught the Bible being young, you can then pull on these stories. For example, like Job and suffering. Mm-hmm. I can't think of another book that, talks about the suffering of an individual and how that person came through that in that way. Or Joseph and his family, and then forgiving his family after putting him into slavery. Mm-hmm. It's a story of forgiving people that you care about after they betray you, which if you haven't heard things like that, if somebody does you wrong and you don't necessarily maybe have a reference point, you're like, fuck you, you did me wrong. Mm-hmm. But for me, when I was younger, having those stories, when things happened, my mind went to, well, Joseph did this. I think I have the strength to do that. Or, hey, King David did this. I think I have the ability to do that. There's just so many different stories in it that are great lessons that I just have the reference point of being brought up in it. So I'm just trying to figure out, when I have kids, I'm going to use the Bible as a study point. Mm-hmm. Whether they believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God, for me personally, that's not the biggest deal. But those stories are so fucking powerful. Mm-hmm. And they've had such a big effect that I don't know another book that and that's why also I think it'd be beneficial to maybe just learn about other things. But that book itself just has so many references that are so strong. Mm-hmm. That's why I think it is really beneficial to understand, at the least.
Mm-hmm. There was a Real Sports years ago on a football player named Ray Caruth, and Ray Caruth I believe he had his girlfriend murdered while she was pregnant.
He had his girlfriend, or his girlfriend was murdered?
He had his girlfriend murdered by just a killer, just a guy that has gotten paid before to kill people. Yeah. This person just went right up to her window and just shot her. Mm. She died. They're able to salvage the baby. The baby continued on with the grandmother, because obviously dad's lunatic and mom's dead. And in a Real Sports special, they asked the woman, they're like, have you, what's your situation with, what do you think of Ray Caruth? And she's like, I forgave him. And they were like, what? This kid's disabled for life. Mm-hmm. She is her, the kid's caretaker. And she's not even looking at it like, I have to take care of this kid. I'm stuck with this kid. She's like, I'm going to fight for this kid just as if it's my own. Like, this is a beautiful thing that this kid is here with me. And I just thought that was so powerful. It's like, holy shit. But it was because of her faith in God. And I don't think it's hard to kind of imagine anyone that, any other person being able to do that than somebody that really believes in God very heavily. Yeah.
I mean, it brings in that issue of
she just
evil.
Said she would suffer more.
Yeah.
She would suffer more if she, so she just, she forgave him. I was like, holy shit, it's wild.
And I think that's, put the in perspective, kind of putting those two things together that you just said, Nsima and Mark, there's these cool stories, or there's these amazing stories. Maybe cool is just too small of a word, right?
Yeah.
There's these life-changing stories in the Bible, okay? But something that I found through the Bible is there's a picture that's painting. It's not just these individual brushstrokes. There's a masterpiece there. And when you look at it, it's actually claiming that Jesus is the Son of God. That's what it's claiming, right? Now, not everybody's going to believe that, and that is their choice. It is okay, and I 100% support that. I would go to war to fight that everybody has a choice to do what they should be able to do. I think autonomy is important. But when we say we'll take what Jesus says over here and say, yeah, that's good and useful for me because it's so helpful. It's like, it's great. It's good. I mean, I guess we're kind of taking the good from something, but it's also a bit of a contradiction in the sense that, like, well, one thing Jesus taught was, I'm the Son of God, and he who has seen me has seen the Father. Like, well, I don't really like that part of it. That's not that critical to me, but that was his whole point in being here. It wasn't just to he who has committed no sin, let him cast the first stone. The reason why he said that, he was trying to point out that everybody has sinned. And that's the reason why he was here in the first place, is the sinless Son of God. And so I'm not trying to trivialize what we are deducing or taking out of the Bible. Mm-hmm. But what I'm trying to say is he was himself, this teacher that we're saying, like, you've got some good moral points for this whole world, Jesus. If everybody followed them, they'd be really, really great. And what he's saying is, yes, I did all that, but I did it to kind of point to a bigger reality that matters, something maybe beyond what any of us are really thinking about right now. And that's something of an eternal perspective, And so I think that Jesus was either who he said he was, or he was a liar. There's only really two options, right? And you can believe that you are who you say you are and still be lying, right? You're just living a lie, and you believe your own lie, and that's totally possible. But like, if he said all these things, he's either crazy, right? Or it's true, or he's Christ, And so we just have to look at the evidence there, I think, too. And I think that was like almost what I always want to leave people with when I talk to them about this stuff. Is like, hey, why don't you re-examine your faith? Like, you re-examined your faith and you go, like, it wasn't as useful as I thought it was. Just re-examine it one more time, with that in mind. Like, maybe there's something more. Maybe Jesus himself, who was this good moral teacher, was actually pointing towards a bigger reality, And he was so countercultural. He was countercultural. He was hard to ignore, right? So I was just reading in 1 Timothy chapter 6. There's this chapter on, it's essentially on money, right? But it starts out with slaves. To say, you guys who are slaves, who you work for a master who is not sharing your same faith. Like, okay, this is good, because a slave, what do they want to do? They want to be free. Yeah, okay, good. Thanks for reeling that in. Okay.
I didn't know you were actually asking a question.
Yeah, a slave wants to be free,
Didn't
right?
give us enough time.
Yeah, I know, right? A slave would like to be free versus under bondage, right? So you also could translate that word bondservant, right? Well, in that, you'd think, okay, so what's going to follow this? If you are a slave and you're working for a non-sharing of the faith master, the guy's going to tell you, like, well, in order to get free, you got to do this. He doesn't say that. He actually says, if you don't work for a believing master, he's like, I want you to work even harder, because what they're going to do if you don't is they're going to lump in your belief system with your work ethic. And I don't want my name, that's God speaking, to be reviled because of your work ethic. Didn't give a rip about their financial situation. Cared more about his name. That's really hard for people to hear sometimes. And he said, hey, if you're a Christian slave and you work for a believing master, well, work hard, because all of your hard work makes money that helps benefit the whole of the body of Christ. So he cares about his church, right? So he cares about his witness, people's witness to the world when they're unbelievers, and he cares about the church, okay, when they are surrounded by other Christians. And then at the very end of that chapter, what's really crazy, he talks about the rich, okay? And when I say that's crazy is that God is countercultural, it's because we address the rich first, always. We address the strong first. We address the powerful first. We always address them first, and they get this like little postscript on the rich, right? and we could go into that, and I don't want to make it into a sermon, so I won't do that. But it's like there's just this whole idea about how God does these things, and he's so countercultural. He brings out the best last.
First shall be last,
right?
First, yeah.
And that's what he constantly does, and it's in his word throughout.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that he uses the least of these to shame the wise. It's like it's all throughout the scriptures, and those are the things that I think people sometimes miss, along with the fact that this guy who taught them a lot of really good lessons also claimed to be the Son of God and threatened grave things if you don't believe it. Right? Like, that's the reality. It's still, at the end of the day, it kind of comes back down to that.
What if God or Jesus came back? Like there's always somebody here now that's claiming. I think there's like a guy. I'm sure there's probably more than one guy, but like, just how would we know? You would think you would know. Like, oh, I would know. Nowadays, there's a lot of like interesting news cycling around, and there's deep fakes, and there's artificial intelligence and stuff like that. Like
deep fakes, that stuff's troubling to me.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I know, it really is.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think? How would we? Yeah.
Well,
how would we know?
If Jesus came back, you're saying? If God came back, if that's
I don't know.
Jesus from the Bible came back.
Yeah. Well, I think it's not funny. It's ironic that you ask that, because the Bible does teach that Jesus will come back, right? And he says he'll take his church with him. So there are some people, and there's actually quite a healthy number of Christians that believe this, that Jesus will come back and he'll actually take people who believe in him with him.
Have you ever watched the movie Left Behind?
Oh, Last of Us?
I've seen all of them. No.
So good.
Left Behind, I've only ever seen it.
Yeah.
But I saw Last of Us, which is kind of got a space to it.
Yeah.
I mean, Last of Us, there's people
so
that are
funny.
gone. And
Yeah.
The reason why he's laughing is he really has been racing the church enough to know these things.
I've seen all of them, bro.
Yeah, right? So it's like a Christian series. First, it started with Kirk Cameron. He played, I don't remember the name. The main
scary
guy. Yeah.
Everybody.
And then Nikolai Carpathia was the Antichrist.
Yeah. And that movie's been redone like 2 more times. Dude, Nick Cage did one. You
What?
can pull that up for us.
Nick Cage did a Left Behind movie?
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. It's pretty wild. So, and it's all the same premise. Like
How
almost the
was
same.
Mel Gibson's movie? Was that any good?
That was The
Passion of Christ.
I
That
never
was
saw
good.
it.
Yeah.
It was
There you
good.
go.
That's the OG one.
That's the OG one.
Yeah.
That was based on a book series, which I read the books. I didn't really get into the movies all that much. There you go. Oh, there it is. Look at Nick Cage.
He did a Left Behind.
Yeah,
Wow.
I think he did. I think he had some time where he was really struggling in Hollywood, right? Do we know that about him? Like he had some issues.
It was struggling
Must have.
just in
He has
life.
a vampire
yeah.
movie coming
He's-
out.
Does he?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
I saw
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, so there, like I said, there's a good number of Christians that believe that Jesus is going to come back. He's going to take his church with him. And that is kind of going to usher, and this is,
So that's how we'll know. People just disappear.
people start disappearing. Yeah. And then you'll go like, that's really weird. That's not true. Like, where did this come from? Why are the third of the people here or quarter of the people or whatever? Why is a huge number of people that have never disappeared before and aren't coming back? Why are they gone? And people will start looking around for answers. Right. And that's, I think if you think about it, it is congruent with the way God is. He's trying to get people just to look up. Right. Like he's just trying to get people to go, hey, you can't figure this out on your own. Maybe if you just,
It's getting people to look up and they're saying, I was down with you since day one. What the fuck?
yeah, why did you bring me? And he's like, yeah, it's an interesting question. So yeah, I would say people will be gone if Jesus does come back in that way. And there are some people who don't think that's the way it's going to happen, but I don't really know where I stand on that.
Hopefully there's a bit more structure if it does happen.
Yeah.
Maybe people that aren't driving, just when they get out of their cars, boop, that'd be ideal.
Yeah, the
Planes. Let's hope there's no one flying a plane that's a Christian at the time, because
Yeah.
that would suck.
Yep.
So, yeah. I'm curious about your viewpoint on this, Ben, because a group that obviously has a lot of dislike for Christianity and disdain are gay people, right? So let's say that you're talking to a youth that's gay or whatever. How do you handle that as a Christian? Do you believe that's something that's wrong?
That's a good question.
Because that's like a big crux and a big topic for Christians versus others.
And that's so true. And I think because of what happens politically, Christians will mobilize and they'll stand against something that they think is wrong as an idea, right? And they think that homosexual marriage is an oxymoron, right? And they'll stand against it
Yeah.
as an idea. But what you wouldn't find from most Christians, I would say most, at least the ones I've interacted with, is them standing against an individual, right? So they wouldn't be like, hey, I'm not your friend anymore because you're gay, right?
Yeah.
And the Bible says that's wrong. Well, the reality is, the Bible says a lot of things are wrong.
Yeah.
Okay? The reality is, the Bible says sleeping with your girlfriend is wrong.
Before marriage, yeah.
Right? It's wrong. Lying is wrong. In fact, homosexuality isn't one of God's top 10. It's not in the 10 Commandments. Don't be gay. Right? There's a lot of other things. So I think our political world, I think the media, I think there's a lot of things that drive wedges between people, and everybody likes a villain, right? So homosexuals have the church seemingly, the media would paint it that way, has homosexuals. And I think there are some Christians that would step out there and help validate that.
Yeah. People, like, you know, again, you'll see subsects of, like, when people see certain things about Christianity on the internet, and like, let's say it's that, you'll see groups of people that are trying to pray the gay away and that type of stuff. You'll see that, but you won't see the people who are Christian that don't mind if someone's gay or whatever. It doesn't matter to them, right?
Yeah.
So that's...
Yeah, and that's the hard part, because if a Christian is pressed to say, hey, what do you think about homosexuality? And I'll say, I think it's a sin, along with a bunch of other things. And they go, you hate me. And I'm like, okay, well, that's not really true, because a bunch of the other sins I struggle with myself, and I've been forgiven for them. And God loves me. I can't imagine he doesn't love you.
Yeah.
Right? But it doesn't start that way. And everybody wants sound bites, you know? And so for me, I think there are some problems with certain lifestyles because they don't align with the Word of God, and it makes life hard, you know? But everybody gets their own choice.
I have a question about that, because, like, obviously the Bible says that that's a sin. So are many things, like lying, whatever, right? But when an adult person, let's say that they're hearing Christianity in the Bible, but they're gay, and that's just how they feel, that, like, people say that's how I'm wired. I'm attracted to that. I am not attracted to my opposite sex. I'm attracted to that. That's just how I am. And how I am is a sin. That's a very hard pill for someone to swallow and say that you are not my enemy, because you are telling me that the way I view my attraction is a sin. So I can understand why people that are gay do not like that, because they're just being told that their life and their attraction is sin.
Yeah, they're being told that that who they are at the very core of who they are is wrong.
It's different from lying. It's different from stealing. It's your core.
Right. Well, let me just say that
it's not like your sexuality is your core. That's not what I'm saying. But, like, that's a big deal for some people.
But we don't frame it in a way that is helpful at all. Like, we're not doing ourselves any favors in the church. I'll just say that. Okay. So the homosexual, and there is a difference with, it even says in the Bible, when we have sexual sin, it's a different type of sin because of the weight that it carries. I think because it involves another person in a lot of ways, and it kind of, I don't know exactly why, but there are some people who will spend time and they'll really break that down. But when you look at something like that and you hear a response like that, like, you're telling me at the very core of who I am, it's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is our sin nature as people is manifesting itself in so many different ways. And it does manifest itself in your life in this way. And am I saying that's wrong? Yes, I am. But I'm also saying the way that sin manifests itself in my life is also wrong. Like, it doesn't matter if I try not to lie. The core of who I am is still sinful and still needs forgiveness. That's what the Bible teaches, and I believe that. Like, I literally believe that. I don't think that I'm good. I don't think I'm, like, closer to God because I'm not gay.
And you're also saying that all sin is equal.
I am. Yeah, I am saying that. Because, like, the damage of one sin, what did Adam and Eve do? They ate a piece of fruit, right? Like, we're not talking about Adam found I don't know. There was no guy around. Like he doesn't like he committed
Adam trusted a
homosexuality,
woman, man.
right?
He trusted a woman.
Yeah. Well, what he did
first
was he
mistake.
just said, like I'm not gonna listen to God, and that's I think what we all start with. Like I just want to live my life my own way, and I think I give people like, hey, there's this way you go to heaven. Jesus said, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. And people are pissed. They're like, what do you mean? Like I would like to live my life my own way. And I'm like, all right, fine. Here's 2 ways. People will still be pissed. I can give you 1,000 ways to go to heaven, but people will be ticked if I give them only 1,000, right? Jesus didn't say that. Because we want nuance. We want to be our own, and I think that speaks to our nature. I think we actually want to be our own. We want to be the God of our own life, right? We want to elevate ourselves to we are autonomous and we get to make that decision, right? And that's fine. We actually do. We actually do get to make that choice. We just don't make a choice of how it ends up. The consequences that we face are real. And so we are left with a choice. Choose. Be your own God or follow God.
Power Project family, shut your fucking mouth. We've been talking about breathing through your nose and nasal breathing during your sleep for the past 5 years. That's why we've partnered with Hostage Tape. It's the best tape on the market, sticks to your face even if you have a beard. So head to hostagetape.com/Power Project and you'll be able to get a year's supply of tape for 55 cents a day. That shit saves you $150. It's a no-brainer. Links in the description and the podcast show notes. Enjoy the show.
It seems like there's a lot less people that are religious nowadays. I don't know if that's true here in the United States, but
I would say that's true.
seems to be the case, and a lot less people going to church. What do you think has led to that?
I don't know, but I do have some ideas, but it also makes people like me, people kind of sometimes will just dismiss me a little bit more with my faith because it's, there's not a lot of people saying it anymore. Before, it's like you have to mobilize against something that's really got a lot of traction. It's like we better be like vehemently against this. But now it's like, I feel like people who are willing to stand on the Word of God and stand on the Bible, very few, very rare. Most people flex a lot, and I think a lot of it does have to do with the influence of the media. I think that we see certain things. I think a lot of us are caught off guard because we're unintentional about a lot of our stuff. We're on our phones a lot. We don't think about anything. I think that community in general is down, right? And I think you'd see that like in Elks clubs, Boy Scouts, churches. Like you wouldn't even have to go as far as Christianity. Like you'd probably see that across the board in almost all types of faith. I'm sure there's little slices where people have little revivals and things like that. But for the most part, I think that it's just kind of moving away from like a postmodern, it's a post-Christian society. We've kind of found a way to reason away the need for a God. We answer a lot of life's bigger questions, like about where'd we come from, we esteem big brains like Richard Dawkins or, people like that, and you guys probably know who that is, I think. But, he also said that life could have literally come from aliens. Like he's really smart, but he also said that. So, I think a lot of it is just like this world is kind of starts to choke out the voices, of, I don't know, the church and of God. Nothing really special, I don't think. So we're just wandering away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think people do that with fitness sometimes too. And I think it's less common now because I think people are understanding, the value of fitness and the value of eating healthy is like so undeniable, right? That people don't really mind as much if someone's like a fitness freak, but they still will mind if someone's religious and they'll say, oh, well, he's like, watch out for that guy. He's too religious. Like you don't want to get, you don't want to get caught up with that guy. He's going to try to make you go to church. Yeah. Andrew, you got anything over there?
Yeah.
Last few times, last time on this episode, you talked a lot. And so I was like, oh man, I'm just waiting.
No. I'm not like, well, in regards to like why I think church in general is like less popular now. I do not mean this to be mean, like the way it's going to come out, but it's going to sound mean, is just that people are starting to think for themselves. They're not following like, oh, mom and dad went to church, so now I go to church. The last time I tried to go back to church, it was like, I'll just explain the whole thing. I don't know the exact story. It was a Christian church. Basically, who I don't know names of anybody, so I'm going to butcher the heck out of this story. But somebody was visiting someone else's town or something, and there was a bunch of statues of a certain god or whatever it may be. The ruler of that town said everybody must praise this god here, and whoever doesn't gets put into basically this big oven where they cook everybody.
Oh yeah, I know.
Okay.
I was waiting for Nsima. He's like,
He's like, I know what it is.
Yeah.
So anyways, this person was like, no, I believe in Jesus or I believe in God. Okay, throw him in the room. And everybody else that believes that what he believes also. Throw him in the room, he survives. Oh shit, like how the heck did you survive? Oh, because I believe in God. Okay, that's it. From now on, whoever doesn't believe in God is going to go right in the same room. The entire church got up clapping, screaming, that's right, da da da. I'm like, you guys are literally celebrating the exact same thing that you were just against. Like, I thought that was crazy. And that was like my last, I was like, I ain't coming back here again. But here in America, Christianity and Catholicism are just normal because this is where we were born. I don't know if this is 100% like total propaganda, but in high school, I remember we learned that like, the Taliban, they go on these suicide missions and they're promised that when they die, God's going to smile upon them and they will be given like
72 wives.
72 virgin wives when they go to heaven. We look at that here in America.
sounds like a lot of work.
Right. We look at that here in America and
Not
we're
if they're
like
virgins.
Yeah, no,
They don't know what it is.
Point.
But we look at that here in America and we're like, that's so stupid. Who would believe that? It's like, well, we believe in our own thing, but why do we not think it's stupid? It's just because it's been here for a very long time. But I just think it's, that's just a religion. And then what we believe here is also just a religion. And so that's where I'm always like, well, why is that silly? But ours is the one. This is the one. This is, we believe in this one, and this one's right, and nobody can change my mind.
I'm taking notes. I know my phone for this. Oh, boy.
By the way, was that story Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego?
Well, I thought it was going that way, but I think it turned into Daniel in the Lion's Den.
Oh.
Yeah, I apologize. I don't know
it's all right.
exact, but I just remember thinking that
first.
was weird.
Yeah.
You said oven.
You said furnace.
And then it was
fiery
like into a
furnace.
room, only one guy, and I'm like, but Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego was
You're
three
right.
guys, so I think Daniel.
It was multiple guys, so I don't
Shadrach,
know.
Meshach, Abednego.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah.
And again, so I
it's kind of
apologize for butchering the story, but it was just so crazy to me. And I'm like, nobody's going to just stop and think like, hey, wait a second. Maybe
You
we
didn't
should
get the story right. Your point is invalid. Moving on. I don't want to answer that question.
Yeah, that's 2023, right?
Yeah. I think that, let me just say this. You said people might be not going to church anymore because they're starting to think for themselves. I would say false. I don't see people thinking for themselves these days. I see a lot of people who are following propaganda. I think people are following the media. People are not thinking for themselves. In fact, sometimes even in fitness, you have people who are just like swayed by the new fitness influencer. They can't even get progress because they're just like, well, this new guy or this chick or this, what, I mean? Like, there's just no continuity. And so I would say, I think at times people do think for themselves, but I think that we have the same trap. We think we're thinking for ourselves, but we're not. We're actually letting somebody else do the thinking for us on that. So I took my new role as associate pastor, actually. So I took a role at a local church, and so I work in pastoral ministry. And so one of the things I was asked yesterday by a group of, we call elders, people who just kind of govern the pastoral staff in the church. Like, why are you here? Like, why are you, because somebody asked me, are you trying to create a name for yourself? Like, that's what they asked me. Like, are you here to create a name for yourself? And I'm going to a small fellowship, around 100, 150 people, okay? And like, I'm not trying to build you up. I'm not Mark Bell in the fitness world, but I'm not a nobody. And if I wanted to create a name for myself, I'd press in to the fitness world. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I would do. I'd start leveraging my relationships, and I would try to really push in that. The reason why I'm here is because I think bad preaching is one of the biggest dangers to the church from within, right? So it's not you guys having conversations like, I don't know about this stuff, right? Like, you're not Christians. Like, I don't expect you to be like talking like me. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't expect that. I don't expect you to be like, oh yeah, Jesus is the Son of God. Like, that doesn't bother me at all when you guys don't necessarily think that. So But I think the biggest problem within the church is bad preaching. And
Yeah.
so when you have somebody like yourself, Andrew, shows it for the first time and they get like this message that is not reflective of God's entire heart. Like, do I think there are really bad circumstances for somebody who says, I am going to flex on my belief because the king says he'll kill me? Yeah, I think there is. I think that we should have more cojones than that. Like, we should be able to go like, I believe what I believe and I don't care what you say, you know? And then I also think that it's really weird when everybody stands up and is like happy that the king's going to put to death people who don't think. Like, they aren't given the same opportunity that the king himself was given by seeing both sides of the issue, right? So my passion is teaching the word of God, teaching the Bible. I keep saying that. I'm used to running in Christian circles right now. Teaching the Bible the way that the Bible is meant to be taught. And when I say that, I mean, there was a writer, okay? Like, my job when I'm talking to Nsima is to interpret Nsima's words as he intends them. It's not to interpret them like I want to, right? That's not how you have a conversation. Because then I can just make Nsima say whatever the hell I want, right? I can make the Bible say whatever I want, which is why I made that point. Like, hey guys, Jesus did say he was also the Son of God. So let's also look at that. Like, remember why Jesus said these things. So I'm going to look at the prophet of Isaiah, and I'm going to see, why did he say that? What was he really saying? Because that's where a lot of people get lost. They run a Bible study, and they're well-intentioned people. And so if you're a Christian, you're listening to this, and you're kind of frustrated with me, and you run a Bible study, and you read a passage like John 3:16, for God so loved the world that gave his only son, whoever believes in him will not perish, but have eternal life. And you look at your Bible study group and you say, what does that mean to you? Like, okay, but what did it mean to John when he wrote it? What did he mean? That's way more important before we get to what does it mean to you. It's not like we never get to ask that question, but I think there's a lot of people who just jump right to, what does it mean for you? Or, you know what I mean? And so bad preaching exists.
I like that a lot. They do that a lot with music. You know, they ask the band, they ask the lead singer, like, what's this song about? And they usually don't tell them.
Right.
And it's because of that reason, because in that case, they want people, hey, it has a special meaning to you. Let's leave it that way.
Yeah, the ambiguity is good.
Yeah, I want you to interpret it that way. Yeah.
Yeah. But when you're talking about ancient manuscripts and writings, and you're saying there's like this heavy weight, depending on which way you go, one way or the other,
Right.
You know, ambiguity is not really good. But if you're preaching to the choir and you really believe that you are, you might just say, hey, I'll just kind of just say something that feels good, fills up the offering basket, you know, and get people kind of riled up.
Get an amen.
Yeah, exactly. You kind of measure your, like, I got to preach yesterday on money, and that's going to be a really weird thing. People come to church and they hear about money. And I said a couple things. I was just waiting for the hook. I thought they were going to take me and pull me right off the stage. You know what I mean? Because like I said, there are certain things I'm like, God doesn't really care about your financial situation as much as you guys all might think. You know what I mean? You might have to give up some of that. And I think there's a lot of people in the church, and it's like a prosperity gospel, like, become a Christian, you'll get like all kinds of this and that. And it's like,
Yeah.
that looks really bad. Like, we're just saying the same things are important to us that it is to everybody else in the world. That's money, it's advancement, it's cars, it's, you know, it's whatever. And it's like, remember I said something earlier, Jesus is countercultural. He didn't care about any of that stuff. He would have modeled it if he did. He would have had a mansion, and he would have had this. But instead, he said the mansion's actually in the future. It's in the future when you're not going to be here anymore. You know what I mean? So for me, that's a huge, it's not even a pet peeve. It's like my life's mission is to move against bad preaching within the church. I'm not going to say great always at talking to people who don't share my same faith and communicate all the truths of the Bible in the best way, but people who, you know, have that initial faith in God and helping them see the Bible as clear and as accurate as I can. Like, I feel like that's a gift that God's given me, and it's what I like to do the most.
Yeah.
So maybe fair to say that like religion maybe just isn't taught in the homes as much anymore, maybe as strict as it used to be. And maybe that's part of the reason why people aren't going to church. Like Andrew's saying, people are kind of thinking for themselves. Maybe they, like you said earlier about like people should re-examine their faith. And maybe some people just never even got to the point to examine it in the first place. And so I think that might be where a lot of people land right now, is they might not. I think about my own son. I'm like, shit, I probably need to talk to him about this a lot more. I know my dad has, but I probably need to speak with him more about these kinds of things, so just to get his brain head in that direction, so he can make a choice on his own. But we, you know, in our household, like religion's not not part of it. And now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, well, it would actually be helpful to at least talk about it a little bit, so that way they can examine it and determine for themselves.
Yeah, I think that'd be good. Even the conversations that we had today or the ones you had before, like making that with your kids, having that with your kids, and seem you're trying to figure out, like, what am I going to do? Like, I'm going to have kids, I'm going to teach them the Bible, but like, how much of the Bible, and like, how are they going to see it? Do I want them to see it like I see it? Do I want them to see it like the writer intended it? Like, how do I, want to do those things? And I think one of the hard parts about church on Sundays is it takes up a lot of time. You know what I mean? I think you brought that up on the last podcast, right? It's like, geez, giving up a couple hours, because it's really like 3 or 4 hours, because you got to get ready. You know what I mean? Like, I actually preach in a t-shirt, like it is no big deal. I don't have the kind of style that Nsima has. But
I loved when we started going to a different church where they would just wear casual clothes.
Yeah.
Oh God, that was the greatest.
Yes.
The preacher comes up in flip flops and a fucking. It was like, let's go.
Yeah, this is better. But it takes time, and a lot of us don't have a lot of time. We have a lot of things going on. I think there are certain pursuits we have, and this world is pretty freaking interesting. And so it's nice to do things. It's nice to get out. It's nice to experience other things. It really is a sacrifice to go to church. I think that's okay though. Anything that you really want is worth sacrificing for. And we preach that in other areas.
You're spending time on figuring out ways to, like, I guess, better your life. I mean, religion aside, and in your position, you are, you're interpreting the Bible and helping people understand the message a lot better and stuff like that. But even just for your average person, just to go to church, I think is a look into a little bit of self-development, personal development, to examine, where they're at. I mean, a lot of times when you listen, depending on the church that you go to, I guess, but most of the ones I've been to before, I find what they say really motivating. And a lot of times I'm like, oh man, like, it gives me like ideas and stuff. I'm like, this is really cool. And maybe I'm interpreting it wrong, but I can get fired up and excited from that. And so I think it's definitely healthy for people to go, and it does take time. But so does the gym, so does any time you're trying to work on yourself and to, try to keep your roots really strong. It's going to take time.
Yeah. I mean, hearing from a good orator, a good speaker, like, especially if you speak for a living, like, even that can be really entertaining and like helpful and educational. Like, you go and you listen to somebody actually talk for a living, and you're, wow, this guy talks every week. You guys talk a lot more, but to an audience, and you mentioned, like, even the influence a local pastor has, over a congregation. Like, how does he have that? What is it? Is it something that he does? Is it really supernatural? Like, these are good questions. You know what I mean? They're great questions, actually. So,
Joel Osteen, he'll get you fired up.
Bro, don't even get me started. Don't even get me started.
But one thing I was going to mention was, like, kind of similar to Mark in a way. I don't remember when I started, like, as I started just like meeting more people that had different types of religious faith. That's when I started to, like, question the things that I believed and why I started to believe them. I think we talked about this on the last podcast where we were talking about this topic. And I personally, like I mentioned, I'm going to have a Bible in my house when I have a kid. I'm going to study it. And I think one great thing about the church I went to with the Pastor Rich Chafin over at Calvary Chapel is that when he talked about the Bible and he was preaching about the Bible, he did his best to study the Bible, not insert what he believed into the message. And I've seen that done a lot. Like, he did a really good job of understanding it and putting it forward in what was intended. But from that too, seeing how there are just so many different religions out there, I think it's a disservice to myself, because I've doing this podcast with you guys for so long. I've seen how so many things that I thought were right were just wrong. Like, and I believed them so strongly. And I believed in Christianity so strongly that I then started to be like, why do I believe this? And what are the things that these other people believe as strongly as I believe? And even stronger, why does this person believe in this other book? So, and it's like, it's their lifeblood. There's nothing else. It would be beneficial to understand that. And that's kind of the way I look at that. Yeah. So I don't think there's no God personally, but I think it'd be a disservice not to understand the basis of what other people do believe, just so I can have a better understanding of the way they're looking at the world and the way they're coming at things, so I can communicate and understand them better, rather than just shunning what they believe and saying you're wrong and this is right, even though that if I was as stark of a Christian as I used to be, that would be it. Like, this is it, and there is nothing else. That's just the way I looked at it, and I'm still learning. That's the thing. I don't fucking know. I'm still learning, but that's the way I'm trying to look at how I want to continue learning about all of this.
Yeah, and just to be fair, I don't want to discount that at all, because I think that's a very real position. I actually think that's congruent with my own. Like, I would never want to not know about where somebody else is coming from. You know what I mean? Like, I want to know why the Hindu is the way they are. I want to know why they are so passionate about that. But I also don't feel like I need to necessarily step away from or abandon my faith in the Word of God and in the Bible in order to do so, right?
Gotcha.
And just because there's certain competing worldviews out there, you know, I do believe there's truth out there. I believe there's truth. And I think that there is a reality based around that. And so, yeah, there are a lot of people who are Buddhist, and there are a lot of people who are Muslim, and there are a lot of people who are Jewish and Christian. And I actually think that one of us is right. That's where I'm different. You know what I mean? I do believe that one of us is right. And I think that what's really cool about if Christianity is the right one, right? And I'll use the word if, it welcomes everybody to come over.
That is true.
Right? It says, come. The big sacrifice, God says, I already laid down my own son to pave the way and make it easy for you. So all you have to do is put your faith in that process, that person who did that for you. No questions asked. Come over. Gay, Buddhist, black, white, doesn't matter. Slave,
Killed somebody?
free.
Come on over.
It's come over. And is there not going to be consequences in this life for the things that we do? Oh, there will be. The Bible talks about them, right? In fact, it lays out capital punishment, right? It lays it out, but it talks about the redemption that comes in the end, right? As what we set our sights on. So for me, the competing worldview thing is why I've spent more of my time doing it now than I did even 5 years ago, 10 years ago, you know, because I think it matters. I think competing worldviews is important.
I think another thing that happened, and I don't know why, and I don't know if this has anything to do with the Bible, but I do think that disciplinary actions in the household, I think, have probably turned a lot of people astray from religion. I know, like, my own upbringing, I mean, I didn't get hit much, but like I have been spanked and things like that before. My brothers used to get hit like a lot more because they're heathens.
But you're also the youngest, right?
Yeah. So I learned by watching them. But these disciplines that may have been acquired from something that was read or misinterpreted, I don't know. I just kind of remember some of those things from when I was a kid, and I was like, you know, if getting hit is from, you know, something I did that's bad in accordance to these rules from this book, I don't want anything to do with the book.
Yeah.
Like, how about I just don't pay attention to the book if I don't ever read the book. Then I'll just go and maybe I'm, you know, maybe there's a lot of hell to pay later on down the road for me. But that was kind of my view of it. And I think a lot of people have probably thought that way. People who've gotten abused in school at, you know, Catholic schools and so forth. So
yeah, and I don't think that abuse is right, and I think that there are ways to definitely overstep positions of authority. I think we see that everywhere, whether it be the Bible or the law. You know, people overstep. And it's not okay, you know, and I think there should be consequences to those oversteps. But that being said, I think it is important, and I don't know how. And I've read that Bible verse, spare the rod, lose the child. Okay. Well, again, we're talking about good Bible interpretation. The rod of discipline is something that's talked about in the concept, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you need a literal rod. Right. And then
to a lot of parents did.
Yeah. And then it's like, and they think they're actually being good. And it's like, oh my gosh, like, what do you mean? Like they just talked back, or they didn't clean their room, or they literally stole from, like, I mean, like, at what point do you bring in
Yeah,
the
they
rod?
hurt somebody else.
Yeah, like at what level do you do that? I think there's some discernment that needs to be used around that. But again, I think teaching kids that there's a world of consequences out there is really important, you know, and I'll say that big picture wise, I think that's what the idea is. And I'm not even trying to fluff over something that's hard, because there are hard truths in the Bible. I just think that's also one of the ones that's misused as well. Like I would agree. And so, I think that it's important, just again, when we're looking at the Bible, to look at it completely. And the other thing is too, sometimes we'll read something that's hard truth, and maybe it said that. Maybe it said that the kid in Pakistan who's 12 didn't hear from Jesus, and so he's going to go to hell. And maybe it says that you should beat your kid every time they do something bad. And if it does, then it's just really hard, and we have to take it on faith, which would kind of be hard. It would be a hard leg to stand on, right, for somebody like me. But I don't think it necessarily says it like that. But if it did, we've got to create. What are we going to do? Create a worldview that we created ourselves, or are we going to trust what God meant originally when He said this to us? Like, you know. So I don't know all the answers. Again, like I said, I'm not necessarily the best apologist for the defender of the faith when it comes to, you know, every question. But I think that you're right. That one is abused quite a bit.
But
you know?
man, spanking ain't just a Christian thing, dog.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
You go to Africa, you go to China, you go anywhere else outside of here, even if they're not Christians, they are. Those children are getting their asses beat. You know, just the discipline thing. That's an interesting one. You know, I don't think I'm gonna spank my kids because I think there's probably better ways to communicate. But I mean, shit, in African culture, that's just Christian or not. Community beatings, baby.
It's the way it is.
It's just the way it is.
Man, you have big hands too. That would hurt. You know, kids are not very big.
Did you get spanked as a kid?
I got spanked as a kid, and I spanked my kids. I spanked my kids, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, they don't really move towards that level anymore. I mean, Mason's 15. He probably turn around and punch me. No, but it was really interesting because we were really clear on our kids. It was discipline. Like, you know, hey, you're gonna stop doing whatever, and then if you didn't take that discipline, that correction we gave you, which was like go to your room or write sentences or go again beyond that, then it was like move on to punishment. And punishment was what we defined as was a spanking, you know, and it was never, you know, like on their face or anything. It was like spank their butt, send them to their room, and we were really clear, especially with Mason and Corbin, because they're older and they're our first ones, and then our girls are the benefit of being the youngest, like you were, you know, and just get to do whatever you want. No, I'm just kidding. Like we really spanked all of our kids. So, but when I would threaten a spanking, I'm like, "Do you want to get spanked again?" And this was like 4 years after Corbin had ever gotten a spanking. He's like, "No," like, and he's like, it's like ingrained in his head. You know what I mean? And it's not even like. I wasn't really. Some people who are like really triggered by this thing. I have a great relationship with my kids, and it's still now. They're like, no, I don't want a spanking. You know, like they know it. I guess could happen. It has happened enough that they're like, oh, it just made me think for a second. But yeah, I haven't spanked my 15 and 12-year-old for a very long time. My girls, it's very, very, very seldom. I told the girls, I said, after you turn 9, because they're also a little bit, they have some behavioral issues and whatnot. So I'm gonna get into that too much. So I told them, I said, after you turn 9, I said, my goal is to not have to spank you ever again. You know what I mean? Like, never want to have to do that. So now we punch them with burpees and losing food or desserts and things like that. So
Exercise punishment.
Yeah. I know. And it's like, it's really hard because how do you create like a response of pain and then you're like associating things like exercise with pain and discipline, right? But the thing is,
burpees, they're always pain.
Yeah, but the thing is, they come to the gym with us and they have a lot of positive reinforcement around exercise too. So like, probably way more, hopefully way more than they have around the other way. Otherwise, you know, I'll just have me give them like type 2 diabetes.
Your kids have any rules with social media or phones or anything like that?
Yeah. So my oldest son and my youngest son, so Mason and Corbin, both have phones. Mason has an Instagram account. I started for him, probably like 5 years ago. And I don't even know the password anymore. So I've got to go in there and get it all figured out. but Mason doesn't have it on his phone. Corbin's having his phone. They both have access to YouTube. They use my account. So like, we have a shared search history and kind of queue. And then, but they actually aren't on social media at all. In fact, I don't even have social media on my phone, so my phone's void of any social media other than YouTube, so I have YouTube on there, but, so.
Have you found for yourself social media just like difficult to navigate, or just got yourself caught up in stuff that you don't want to?
It's a total trap. You know what I mean? And so I have, I'm perfected in Christ and my faith, but I'm totally just a guy. You know what I mean? I struggle. There's just too many people putting too many girls for me to look at. And I don't
those women in those
and I don't need to go. I don't need to go there. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like I've chosen, I have a beautiful wife and I've chosen to be married, and I choose every day to be married. And so I just kind of moved away from it. It was something I really struggled with as a younger man. And then even now I know that if it was there, it would be something that would be like, hey, like, and
let me ask you actually,
yeah.
Can you go into what you meant when you struggled with that as a younger man? Like what do you mean?
So pornography, following social media accounts, to the point where it's like, it's not enhancing my relationship with my wife. That's not enhancing my relationship with God. That's not enhancing my relationship with anybody, really. I'm just kind of objectifying, whomever. Like I'm even still sensitive to that in movies. Like, so I watch rated R movies. I watch, movies with swearing and killing and murder and, mystery. But I'm really sensitive to sex or nudity on screen.
Same.
And the main reason for that is because, well, if I'm watching a military war movie, and somebody's like in a foxhole and they're like, give me my effing gun. Like nobody, I'm not going to be like, oh, I can't believe he's swearing. You know what I mean? Like, and on top of that, he's not really in a foxhole.
Vulgar.
Yeah. He's not really in a foxhole right now. It's an actor, right? And he's not really about to kill somebody. It's fake. But if I see a naked woman on screen, the reality is that's still somebody's daughter. It's still also somebody's wife, and just like if there was two people having sex over there, I wouldn't walk in the room and be like, hey, I'm going to watch. Like why at
Just
some
sit down, light up a cigar.
Yeah. Why at some point in my life did I think it was actually okay, right? And I never did. I never thought it was okay. There was something in me that knew it was not okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there you have it.
Even if you're not a Christian, dog, like you sitting there beating your meat, you just like, afterwards I'm nasty. Like I didn't Christian or not, you just know that you're being stupid.
You're a dirty person. Yeah.
Right? Hey, and I would just say, where does that moral code come from? You know what I mean? I'll just bring it back full circle. Where does that come from within us? Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. That's what I'd say I struggle. So I don't want to have it on my phone. I also there's so many things that I think I need to protect myself from. I need to walk in a certain way that's worthy of like the way I've been called to walk, both as a husband, father, role model, teacher, CrossFit coach, or Christian.
I think that's super powerful though, like that you, like as a guy, what draws your attention and you're guarding your inputs purposefully because you know that you have a wife that you want to be, you want to be faithful to, you want to be focused on, you want that to work. So you're like, I gotta be careful with these fucking inputs because they're messing with my mind in that way. And that's like, some people are like, oh, it doesn't matter. It doesn't make a difference. But it does make it matters.
It matters. Yeah.
It definitely does, So that's awesome, man.
Nobody who's over 30 would say that. I don't think anybody over 30 would say that. Somebody under 30 might say that doesn't matter. You know what I mean? But nobody over 30 would say that stuff doesn't play any kind of factor in your mind or your relationship. You know what I mean? But yeah, there are people out there probably listening who are like, it doesn't matter. Okay.
Just wait.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
It totally matters.
Yeah, it's not any extra helpful to be looking at other people. And I think it's something that just people spend a lot of time doing. You end up, you said it's a trap. You're on there for way longer than you should be. And I think, for people that don't think it's a big deal, a good way to check yourself on that is just some role reversal. Now your wife is looking at a bunch of guys or whatever it might be. Yep. Right. And it's like, is that you totally cool with that? Like, is that doesn't matter at all to you? I don't know, might matter a little bit.
Right. And then another way to check is just stop for 30 days or a year or whatever, right? Oh, you're not an alcoholic? Well, then don't drink.
Right.
Like, oh,
Nice way to check.
yeah, it's an easy way to check. You got to check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Yeah.
Andrew, take us on out of here, buddy.
Alrighty. Thank you, everybody. My throat's all jacked up. For checking out today's episode. Please drop those comments down below. And then if you guys were interested in this episode, make sure you guys check out the one that we have up on the card right now. It's the first episode that we referenced on this episode, talking about religion. So make sure you guys check that out. Hit that like button and subscribe if you guys are not subscribed. Follow the podcast at MB Power Project on all over the place. My Instagram is at I am Andrew Z. And Nsima, where are you at?
And comment down below. Let us know like what your journey with religion has been, or what you are, and how you feel about all of this. What have you taken away? Just let us know. At Nsima Inyang on Instagram, YouTube, at Nsima Inyang on TikTok and Twitter. The Discord is down below, so check that out. Ben, where can people find you?
I'm on one place on social media, that's Instagram. You can go to IronMileBen.
But you deleted it.
I did delete it, but I got it back. I got some back, and so now I'm at a whopping, I actually don't know how many followers I have. Probably around like 800. Yeah, my 15,000 disappeared, and we deleted it and never came back, and then they gave me back the handle, but it's whatever. My fitness influence in the world is based on where I'm at locally. I get to influence people in my gym, which I love.
Where's the gym?
Sacramento. You can come to Iron Mile. You got Iron Mile Fitness. That's we got an Instagram there. Go to Iron Mile Fitness. Check out our
Where'd
gym.
the name come from?
Anything Fitness. Oh my goodness. All right. Well, we're restarting the podcast. So, Iron Mile. So, in 2012, I competed at regionals, and I was like, man, I'm just not strong enough. And so I went to the strongest dude I know, which is Mark. And I said, man, I need to get stronger. And then we had that conversation. He also gave me a yoke, and he said, like, here, train with this for a little bit, and some people are more familiar with those because it's strongman now. And I thought, okay, well, it's CrossFit. It's not strongman. What would they carry? So I'm like, I'm just gonna. We do 400 meters. Nobody likes running 400 meters. I'm just gonna carry this thing for 400 meters. And then I was like, no, I think Jason Kalipa, name drop him again, and Neil would probably do this thing like for a half a mile. They do 2 laps because 800 is even worse than 400s. And then I was like, you know what? Let's just put 100 pounds on here. I'll just take this thing a mile and see what happens. And because I thought that would help keep me in the sport. You know what I mean? And lo and behold, I don't know if it was that did it, but it was the mindset that helped. So if you do the Iron Mile, you don't have to be strong for a little bit. You got to be strong for a really long time.
That's brutal. Any idea how long it took you to do that?
The first time, I didn't know it could be done. So you kind of sneak your way into it. You kind of edge your way in and just tippy toe as you go through it. It was around like 50 minutes. And I think I did it after
Sounds
that.
punishing.
Yeah, I did it after that in 40. I did it again in like 32 minutes. The fastest I ever heard was Sam Briggs. She came to Sacramento once, and she did it in like 28 minutes. And she's not even really super strong. She's just such a good engine.
Yeah.
Like that's what she's called. Like she's the engine. And then we did it one more time with an axle bar. So it was still 275 pounds. So you had to clean and jerk the axle bar so you can get it over onto your back. Right. So you do this, you walk 275 pounds for a mile. Every time you put it down, you got to do 3 burpees over the object you decide to carry. 3 burpees isn't a ton, but it just makes it so you have to think about when you put it down. Right. And when I was carrying the yoke is set up at about chest high. So you do a burpee, and then you've got to kind of like fence hop over it. We kind of hacked it. We figured out you could just lay yourself over and do like a roll, like a gymnastics roll over it. Yeah. And that never sat well with me. I created the workout, so I just say, you can't do that. You got to jump over the object, right? You can't flip around the bar. So, yeah. So now the gym's named Iron Mile, and just try to do as hard things as often as we can.
Sanity.
Also, don't forget, there's an old video of a Real World Tactical fucking us up. Ben actually killed the workout, but it was myself, Ben, and Alan Thrall, and Ben killed us all.
That was every dog has its day, brother. If you want to feel better about yourself, we can go grapple.
Nsima hasn't forgotten that day.
I have not.
He's just waiting to catch you slipping. That's all.
Yeah, I've already slipped. I'm
at Mark Smelly Bell. Strength is never weakness. Weakness never strength. Catch you guys later. Bye.